Hey everyone, welcome to the OnCore Golf podcast. Today we have an incredible guest, Alex Riggs. Alex Riggs is a Canadian-born golf coach who is currently based in Dubai, also spent some time in Toronto, Canada. But Alex has spent a majority of the past 17 years working under some of the best names in the industry, Sean Foley to name one, developing strong, stable players around the world. He now travels regularly for professional and amateur players in tournaments on the European Tour. Alex also plays OnCore golf balls and is a good friend of mine. Alex, thank you so much for being on today. How are you doing?
Doing great, Peter. Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, so pumped to have you on. So I want to start and begin this by a simple question. How did you get started in golf? Was it in high school? Was it, later in life? Give us your story.
I would say the intro, I had golf clubs, like probably cut down golf clubs or my parents' old ones as a toddler, but it was never really a sport. For me, it was baseball and hockey up until I think it was 14, and I was looking for summer job opportunities, and I managed to get a job at one of the two private golf clubs in the city, Saskatoon, where I grew up. And having access to a golf course, constantly being there every day, I got absolutely hooked. Okay, so I went from a guy that was probably thinking more along the baseball route to being an absolute obsessed golfer, and the game just hooked me from there.
Dude, I'm in the same boat. I was a football player and also did baseball. And I was just all in on football and baseball. And then in high school, my parents would drop me off there so I didn't get in trouble, like in the summers. And I just fell in love with it. We were there all day, me and my friends. And golf is just such a fun sport.
It's the best.
Yeah, no, it's the best. So this is kind of a harder question. I know it's the beginning of this interview, but what does it take to be a great golfer?
That's a great question. It really is a wide spectrum, because not only do you need to have the skill sets, and there's like so many layers of skill sets that we need, like physically, you've got to be able to have good control of your golf ball directionally. You've got to have enough power that you can still make the course short enough. And, there's always the between the ears stuff. How's your strategy? How's your emotional state? How's your energy levels? So it's such a unique game, because as much as it is so dynamic on our movement standpoint, like we need to be able to be incredibly athletic, we're working with a static environment, which is unique to most sports. Like most sports, things are constantly in motion. You're constantly having to react to things. So you don't necessarily get to sort of stop and dictate the time element. You think about baseball, and if you're a fielder, you don't get to say, "Oh, hold up, guys, just wait for me for a second." When the ball's in play, the ball's in play. And with golf, you are your own time, your stopwatch. So you sort of have to decide, okay, I'm ready to go here, and get yourself ready for it. And it's so unique. It's so cognitive. Like you're always going to be in your own head. So you need to have control of your thoughts, control of your emotions. And, there's the obvious skill element, but it really is such a unique game that way.
Yeah, and it's so unique in so many different facets. And I want to jump into human performance. We both have degrees in kinesiology and exercise physiology. I would just love to hear kind of your take on optimizing human performance. I know like you wear the Whoop band, I got the Whoop band on. So what is your take on optimizing human performance? What are some things you're thinking about right now? What are some research you're doing? What do you think is going to be important moving forward for human performance?
You know what? It's been funny having this thing. I've had it now since January, and obviously with our backgrounds, we've got a decent take on kind of how the body is constantly evolving. But what's really fascinating while wearing the Whoop and sort of monitoring your data is that you've got this understanding day to day at how freakishly different we are every day.
Yeah,
like we are never the same. And
exactly.
you hear this countless times from golfers where they'll say, I figured it out today. I found my feeling, I found my swing thought, and it was working perfect for me. And then they go play the next day, and it's like, why wasn't it there? Well, it shouldn't be there. You're a different person that next day than you were the day before. And our bodies are constantly changing physiologically. We're constantly recovering and we're stressing ourselves, and it's this constant ability to sort of find balance and get the nervous system to a point where hopefully it can perform again. And I think that the sort of optimization or attempted optimization of recovery is now something that thankfully we're getting a lot of really good information sent to us. Like there's a lot of good research in terms of how we can better ourselves day to day just based off the quality of our sleep. And you as a father of a newborn know this as well as anybody, that when sleep is something that is being disrupted or shortened, it's a difficult grind. And
Yeah.
I'm at a point now where, like, luckily, our daughter's she's sleeping 12 to 13 hours a night, so like I can kind of put a little bit more time into optimizing that sleep, and it makes such a world of difference to how you feel the next day, how the body's able to recover, how much you can push yourself. So I really think that, like, it's without a question that sleep is huge, diet is huge, how you're training is huge, your overall mindset, and like how you manage your stress, what you take on, what you decide to ignore. These are all things that sort of allow people to peak or crash if they're taking the wrong side.
Yeah, it's crazy how impactful sleep is. Obviously, like you said, I have a newborn. Um, and some nights I get 3 hours, some nights I get 7 hours, and it's a complete different day the next day. It's like just
Yeah.
that one thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's just so many different facets to health. So thank you so much for sharing all that. And I'd love to talk a little bit about golf coaching and golf instruction, maybe some of this human optimization will lead into this. But I wanted to start this question with reading a testimonial from one of your golfers,
All
Kevin
right.
Roderick. He's on the MENA Tour and PGA Tour Canada. He says, "What can I say about Alex? He's taken me from a pro who struggled to make cuts into a player that has all the tools, technically, mentally, physically, to contend each time I tee it up. Riggs not only understands the golf swing, but is able to convey his points in teaching in a way that you as a player can understand and comprehend. I've always looked for a coach who gets it from golf, fitness, nutrition, and mental standpoint. Needless to say, I found my guy." And as we've been talking about, human performance, all
Mm-hmm.
the different facets of golf. My question to you is, how do you approach golf instruction?
I think it needs to be approached in all these levels. It's so much more. If you're truly a coach, you're more than just a technician of the swing. You know, I think that if we really factor in what a coach is, a coach will help that player perform at the best of their ability. And yes, there's almost always an aspect of technique that needs to be looked into and improved upon. But sometimes it's just those conversations that you can have with the player that just help them get into the right mindset. And sometimes it's maybe helping them understand better ways to optimize themselves, and bringing people into that team, whether it be on like the physical side and more on the body prep, what they can do beforehand, what they can do in their off time, the strength and conditioning. Sometimes it's on the manual therapy. Sometimes it's more on how they practice. How do they get the most bang for their buck in terms of how they spend their time? Because we all live lives that have a lot going on, and it's, if you're going to spend 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day at the golf course training to become an elite professional or an elite amateur, you want to know that that time has been spent as valuable as possible. You're not just bashing golf balls and flushing 7-irons all day, but you're truly working on movement patterns that are going to benefit you. You're putting yourself into a performance state that gives pressure and really helps you when it comes to that competitive environment. You're becoming more adept at adaptability and being able to work from different lies, different wind conditions. Just being able to have as many of the tools as you can possibly have. And I think that as a coach, you have to be able to be truly honest with your players in understanding what they have as strengths and what really needs to be developed. Like what are their weaknesses, and how are you going to assess those, and how are you going to improve those weaknesses to level up their golf game.
Yeah, and I've heard you say like multiple times, everyone is kind of a unique puzzle. So you have to work with everyone differently. I think where I'm like, where my question is how is it different coaching someone on tour as opposed to just your normal, scratch golfer, and then your 10 handicap? Is there similarities between each player? Obviously, your tour player is going to be an incredible golfer and has a lot more years of instruction and is a better golfer. But is there similarities between each level, or are you really, really unique in each person?
Yeah, I think that the puzzle analogy is the best. It's something that I've obviously said quite a bit. Just everybody is truly, truly so unique. You're going to meet 10 handicappers that are phenomenal drivers of the golf ball, and they might drive it like a scratch, but they can't putt to save their life, and that's why they're a 10. And you can meet guys that are 2 handicappers that still might only hit 3 or 4 fairways around, but they just grind and have phenomenal short games. So it's really, I think that whether they're professional or whether they are a 25 handicap, they're going to have things that they're better at relative to kind of their core level, whatever their handicap is. They're going to have portions of their skill set that are probably better than that handicap, and then portions that are probably a lot worse than that handicap. So really to continue to improve upon that handicap, or their scoring average, as we might say, it's really just identify where do you want to spend that time. And I guess a big thing with this is professionals play golf for a living. Therefore, that they are prioritizing their golf, whether it's their golf, their fitness, and their practice strategies and whatnot. That's their life. Whereas with amateur golfers, they typically have a career, or they're students. So they're far more time sensitive in terms of how much time they can actually spend. So if it's somebody that's a 20 handicap and I'm coaching them, I'm still going to look at their game almost like a business model and say, okay, so you're fairly good off the tee. So let's just sort of leave the tee game for now. Your iron play isn't hurting you, but you're very, very poor inside of 100 yards. So that's where we need to focus our time. Now maybe you've only got 3 hours a week to work with. So how are we going to spend those 3 hours? And with a tour pro, they maybe have 30 hours to work with in a week. So it's, you're sort of structuring things that way.
Right. Would you say that there's an aspect of the game that people struggle with most? Like, do most people struggle with putting, or is it pretty diverse in where people struggle?
It's diverse for sure. But I would say that very rarely do I meet a 20 handicap or higher that has a very good short game. Very, very rarely. Typically if you meet somebody that's they're shooting, let's say 90 or higher, for the most part, I can almost universally say I'm never a big fan of absolute statements, but I'd almost guarantee that their short game could be vastly improved upon. Like their game inside of 100 yards. And oftentimes at that handicap level, that's exactly what they're ignoring the most in their practice. They're probably assuming that they can't shoot into the 80s because they need to drive the ball an extra 30 yards, or they need to hit more 7-irons in the driving range. And oftentimes, if they just learned how to guarantee that they could hit a wedge on the green and that they could 2-putt 75% of the time, they would probably save a heck of a lot more shots.
Right. And that's my issue exactly. I'm 3-putting all day, right? Like
it's so common. It's so common.
I was playing in a tournament the other day with my friend David, and he hit a 3-wood. We were playing a scramble. He hit a 3-wood 10 yards from, it was like a 270-yard par 3, and he hit up 3-wood like 10 yards from the hole, and we 3-putted together. Like as a team. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. But yeah, so I was wondering if you have any, I guess, quick tips for people. I know that you have a unique perspective on how you, on just like online golf tips, like people going on YouTube and watching one tip and then them trying to take that to the course. But do you have any quick tips for people? And maybe you could talk about that perspective you have with online golf tips.
I think what that whole theme is just kind of dialing into is sort of the culture of blindly going on YouTube and sort of picking the first video that you see and assuming that if you take that thought to the next game of golf, you're going to play better golf. And I mean, I think that just the way I've explained that probably sounds like it's just nonsense, but it's really, people need to understand first and foremost sort of where they fit into. And that may be just having somebody with some experience video their swing and say, okay, you swing over the top, or you swing way too much from inside out. And like, even just knowing that in itself, like you're a very steep swinger of the golf ball, or you're far too shallow of a swinger of the golf ball, just knowing that can really save you so much unnecessary time when it comes to trying to find some of those tips on YouTube or wherever the case is, on Instagram. Because whenever we are giving advice, and like I've got stuff out there as well, obviously I put a lot of stuff on Instagram,
Right.
they're specific to certain people. And you know, one theme that I may do may fit a certain population, a certain movement type really, really well. But if the person that's on the flip side of that coin takes what I just said, they could actually get worse.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing, is that like you never want somebody to put in their own valuable time into practice and movement and have it be counterproductive. They could be
Right.
they could be taking that like exactly as it was produced in the video, and then they could work on that, and they can actually, like I said, it can make their game worse. So it's just sort of knowing where you fit. If you
Right.
know that you're one style of swinger, if you know that, if you know this video is applicable to you, then it could be great for you. But I just don't want people to waste their time.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's the unique thing about, you know, some of the stuff you do with Skillist and doing like the online on-demand instruction is people can take their video of their swing and they send it to you. You send them back a video on their swing analysis, instead of, you know, them jumping on YouTube, typing in, oh, how do I improve my drive? And then them going out and trying that, you know. So that's the cool thing about the stuff you do with Skillist and your golf instruction. Kind of one of my final questions is, I know that you caddy for some of the players you coach. What is that like?
It's awesome. It's such a unique perspective, because you know, you can work with players, and you know, you work with them in such a controlled environment. I think that's the best way to explain it, is that when we're practicing, you control all the variables. You can sort of control your time, you can control the shot selection, and you can really develop those skill sets, and you could pay attention to that player's state, how they're dealing with their good shots and their bad shots. But to be able to be right there inside the ropes and truly connected to that player's performance and how they're thinking, how they're managing the ups and downs, that's where it's so unique. And I've been lucky to be able to caddy for some of my players in professional events and high level amateur events. And I always take away so much from it. And even when it comes to working with amateurs, being able to get them on the golf course for playing lessons, like,
Yeah.
you may see somebody you could see them for a dozen lessons and feel like you know them, but until you get them onto the golf course, you don't know them. You don't know how what their patterns are. You don't know why they swing the way they do, because we take on certain swings, like we all swing it different. I think that's easy to understand. And why we swing the way we do is a makeup of, you know, our athletic background, our body proportions, our strength, our flexibility, all these things. But it's also very much tied into kind of the input, our alignment, kind of what we're considering, what our concept of a good golf swing should feel like and look like, because that's also individual. And when you see people on the golf course and how they take on the course and how they strategize and how they align themselves and where they think they're aligned, that's how you really, really understand their fingerprint.
Right. And I'm sure the emotional side of things too. Like, I know you've talked to me about this, like, I got to control my emotions on the course. Like, I'm sure you see that side of things too, as opposed to them on the range. So that's a super cool insight that you get while caddying. Do you have any memorable rounds that you have caddied for?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been able to caddy for players, you know, in different events around the world, and I can think of a really, really memorable time that I had on the golf course. Actually, this was in Germany last year. with Dominic Fuss. I was caddying for Dominic, and so he's a German player. He's obviously a very strong player, and he eagled the 18th hole kind of in front of the hometown crowd. And I forget what it was like. I think it was just like a stock pitching wedge coming in, or a stock gap wedge coming in. But in front of that crowd, that was a really cool moment to kind of, and you see those moments on TV, and you see the excitement between the player and caddy and the high five that takes place. And it was funny. We were laughing afterwards that I was just hoping we didn't have one of those moments where we missed the high five. But it was one of those moments of excitement that, kind of seeing that raw emotion from the player, it was quite special, and something that I definitely won't forget. And no, those are those moments that when you are lucky enough to kind of be inside the ropes, it just means that much more.
Right. Cool, man. So thanks for everything. I want to finish this off with some quick hitters. Just some quick questions to learn more about you. So my first question is, what is the most used app on your phone on the golf course currently? Or do you not use your phone on the golf course?
I absolutely try to not use my phone on the golf course at all.
Okay.
And I think that this is actually a conversation that I've had with a couple of juniors over the years, when a lot of people will sort of start their round of golf with the phone in the bag or the phone in the pocket. And then as a coping mechanism, as soon as they sort of deal with the first inevitable frustration, out comes the phone, messaging so-and-so, or looking for that distraction, whatever the case is. And then kind of there goes the downward spiral. No, I absolutely, other than just for basic things, like if I'm playing with players, I'm obviously going to be using video a lot to try to capture video on course. That's really it. I think that if we're going to play golf, let's play golf without distractions.
Yeah.
If we can do that. So I don't, as you know, I don't get out for many rounds of golf a year. I might play 10 to 15 rounds of golf a year. So when I'm having the opportunity to get out there, I'm not on the phone at all.
I just want to play. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it. What do you have any pre-round or golf day rituals before you go out for a round? Or like pre-instruction rounds or pre-caddying rounds, like any rituals around your day?
Yeah, I would say so. I probably wake up a lot earlier than most people in terms of for work or for golf or for anything. I like to have slow mornings. Like I like to have a morning where if my first lesson of the day is 7 a.m., I'm up at 5. And I want to have a morning where I can start the day with zero rush, zero panic. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anything to elevate that cortisol. I want everything just to feel like it's under control, not in an obsessive way, but I just find that I'd much rather, if I can, go to bed an hour early, or just to wake up an hour earlier, to be able to have a little bit more time to enjoy breakfast, catch up on whatever I need to catch up on, get through some online lessons if that's what I've got on the plate, and get to work early. Like and the same thing with golf is that I'd rather have everything such that if I hit an extra street light, if there's a detour on the way there, it's like, okay, no problem. I try to stay as mellow as possible that way.
I'm the same way. Morning is everything. Sleep and that morning routine are so key. And exercise and diet. Yeah. We've already talked about that. Do you have any go-to snacks during a round of golf? Are you down in protein shakes, or what? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm big on having a protein shake mid-round for sure. But I'm open to a lot of things, like whether it's like mixed nuts, whether it's jerky, that can be a really good one. I generally always like to make sure I've got some food coming in on the golf course, and preferably more of like a protein-rich source than something that's just going to spike the blood sugar. And the protein shake is a good one. I've always liked that one. And not only does it taste great, but you do feel like you get that sustained energy for a while.
Yeah. Love it, man.
I don't have
And
six. I don't have 6 or 7 a day like
right,
Bryson though.
right. So that's funny. Um, that's so crazy, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I was gonna ask this one. We can probably tell from the shirt you're wearing, but what golf clubs do you play?
I play PXG golf clubs.
Yep.
I've been with PXG now for, I believe, 4 years. Um, and yeah, very, very, very happy with the equipment. They make great stuff. I I like brands that are disruptive, that are not afraid to be different, and sort of challenge the norms. And in most cases, the brands that I've kind of chosen to align myself with all somewhat fit into that spectrum. You know,
Yeah.
at OnCore is absolutely up there as well. Like, I love the the kind of ethos of the company. The product's incredible. I've been playing the ball now for maybe 2.5 years now, and no, I wouldn't want to align myself, or I wouldn't want to play anything that I didn't think was the best. So
Yeah.
I'm very lucky with who I've been able to partner
That's awesome. Thanks for the love for Anchor Golf. Last question,
with.
final question, or do have you played the new Vero X1, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yes, I have. I have gotten a couple of rounds in Canada, and that's been the ball that I've been testing, and it's awesome. It really is an impressive golf ball. Like I said, I had been playing the Elixir, and I've still kind of gone back and forth. Not that I'm not happy, but I just want to be able to distinguish the differences, and
Right.
I think that's important. You know, kind of going back and forth, you start to be able to tell those subtle differences between the golf balls, and you know, I really do think that Elixir is going to be a golf ball that I think everybody is they love it. Everybody has
Yeah.
is really high praises for the Elixir. Great feel, great performance, great durability. I think that where the Vero might separate itself a little bit is just with that slightly higher club head speed player. I think that
Yeah.
they might gain a little bit more on it. I think that they might gain a little bit more ball speed, and they might find that it feels a bit more grippy around the greens. And you know, obviously, both golf balls are tremendous. I think that everybody needs to, when it comes to things like this, just don't take my word. Don't take Just try it, test it out, see what you think. Try both,
Yeah.
and you'll
Try it,
probably
people.
find one. Yeah, just try it. You got absolutely nothing to
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah.
Incredible value for your money. So try it and figure out which one you prefer, but you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah. So thanks so much, man, for doing this. Where can people find you on the internet? Do you have a website? Social media? Where can they find you?
I put the most through Instagram. So I think that's probably the best resource. And my Instagram is Riggs Golf. So I try to put as much content as physically possible on there for everybody. Lots of videos, stuff on things that people can work on. And if anybody's got things, questions, whatnot, please just fire through a DM, and I'd be happy to cover video topics or anything that people want to see.
Yeah, yeah, man. And I just have to say, thank you so much for helping me with my golf game. Alex has, been on Skillest with me a few times, done some swing analysis, given me some lessons, improved my game substantially, changed my swing completely. It's just wild. I've loved working with you, both with Encore and with my golf swing. So thank you so much for everything, guys. Go check Alex out. Obviously on Instagram, but he's also on Skillest. Go get some instruction by him. It's 100% worth it. It's just hundreds of golfers that he's improved their game and made them better. So highly recommend checking Alex's stuff out. And thank you guys so much for listening. You can check Encore Golf out at encoregolf.com, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for listening. See you, man.
Take care.